Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for your patience and everyone. It's been a very collaborative effort, as it always is, but okay. So I was saying there's a quote by Okumura Roshi in this book, The Handbook of Zen, Mindfulness and Behavioral Health. And in it, he's talking about the practice of the three minds. And so he writes briefly on each of the three minds, Daishin, or magnanimous mind, Kishin, joyful mind, and Roshin, nurturing mind. And what he has to say about Kishin is it's the attitude that finds joy within working to take care of others. When we are in favorable conditions, we do not need joyful mind because the circumstances are already joyful. We can simply enjoy our life. When we are in difficult situations and cannot find any reason to enjoy them, we need joyful mind for not being overwhelmed by the difficulties and our negative thoughts and emotions influenced by these difficulties. So, the way I interpret that is it's a practice, it's a mind state, a boundless mind state, um, a limitless mind state, meaning that it's not dependent on external circumstances or internal circumstances. It just is, regardless of whatever's happening. Um, and so we can call on this, we can call on it, we can invoke it, we can cultivate it, we can summon it, this joyful mind. And that's what he's saying here, it's when we're finding ourselves overwhelmed by challenging emotion, we can invoke this mind and work with it and actually bring it to life. Um, and a few points I want to make on that is, this is different for me in my life and my experience. This is a different than maybe what's called sometimes as like spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity, which to me, those are really dependent on ignoring, choosing to ignore, ignorance, which again is not ignorance, not in the terms of simply not knowing, but ignorance meaning a willful, a choiceful not looking at something because it challenges us, perhaps. It challenges our well-being or our worldview or our sense of safety or positivity. So this isn't that, I think of it as a transmuting almost. We're transmuting whatever difficulty we find ourselves in into joy, and which requires a real taking on, a real embodying and working with. And if anyone's practiced with Tonglen, that's really what Tonglen is. We're not trying to skirt around the suffering. We're actually receiving it directly, but not getting stuck there. We're transmuting it, right? And Tonglen is a practice of it's translated as giving and receiving. And so ultimately it's a practice of connection, of interconnection, of recognizing that our suffering is not ours alone. Um, Neither is our joy, but it's shared in community um, with all beings, with the Sangha. And one other mind, so different and the same. There's the three minds that we're exploring in this series that come from Dogen Zenji's Tenzo Kyokun, which is big mind or magnanimous mind, Daishin, Kishin, joyful mind, and Roshin, nurturing mind. And then there is the four Brahma Viharas, um, which are sometimes translated as the four heavenly abodes or the four infinite minds. And one of those is mudita, which is it's usually translated as sympathetic joy, but I like the term vicarious joy. And this is a joy that, again, it's recognizing that um, we are interconnected. Our emotions are really not our own. And so we can support each other. And this vicarious joy is letting in the joy of others, the joy of the world, and taking it on as our own, and vice versa. Right. And so again, it's this practice of Sangha. And so cultivating these things together. So we're gonna practice. We're gonna do a guided meditation with Joyful Mind this morning. I'll read what Dogen Zenji has to say about Joyful Mind in the Tenzo Gyokun, and we'll practice with it a little bit. We'll just do some meditation with it, um, and then we'll have some time to chat. Yeah. And it's really, it's the same. Last week we explored Daishin, which is this mind of non-discrimination, of accepting everything. You can picture the mountain, you know, um, which the mountain is the mountain. It's this immovable mountain that is imperturbable in the face of everything that comes through the mountain, all the beings, lightning storms, fire, um, waterfalls. The mountain holds all of it and it embraces all of it. Um, and it's really the same as joyful mind, or they inform each other. And also Roshin, nurturing mind, which we'll explore next week. It's all the same. And same as the four Brahma Viharas, the four heavenly abodes. They're all there, and these are our real natural states of mind beyond our ego self. There's Dr. Mark Unno, he's a scholar, he's a professor at University of Oregon and a Shin Buddhist priest. And he talks about, I was listening to a podcast he talked and called Edge of Mind. And he was talking about in Japanese, there's these terms, jiriki and tariki. And jiriki is self-power, which is like the ego, which is necessary. What Katagiri Roshi would say, what Anju-san says, what Teijo says is that's actually our life force. It's ego it's this vital energy we all have, and it's limited. And so that's the jiriki. Tariki, ji means self, ta means other. So tariki is other power. And it's the power outside of ourselves. And so the way I think of it is like jiriki is what gets us to the cushion. We're gifted with being humans and having agency and choice, being choiceful. And so jiriki is the choice to get to the cushion. And then tariki is that letting go that we do when we sit. Um, and so the two are always in collaboration. They work with each other. So I'm going to read from the Tenzo Gyokun. And Dogen Zenji says, a joyful spirit is one of gratefulness and buoyancy. And so I invite you to just kind of settle into yourself some and um, just let this be with you. See what comes up. Again, it's a practice, right? And it's an orientation. And so sometimes we don't experience maybe the joy that we're calling on immediately. I started incorporating metta, loving kindness, into my practice a few years ago. And I was doing every day I was doing a guided meditation by the teacher Ruth King. And it's very simple. There are four phrases. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. May I be safe. And may I be at ease. There are different versions of that. And we're just giving those to ourselves and then we extend it out to all beings. But it's important that it comes from ourselves, and when before we can really extend it out, we have to really experience it in our own body and mind. And then it naturally spills out. I was on retreat with a Theravada nun and she talked about how we don't actually need to, there's this idea of pouring into people's cups, but we actually don't need to do that. We just pour and are receiving so much into our own that it spills out into everyone's cups. So there's a runneth over. And so just a slight twist on that. But when I started doing metta, I was ready. I was like, yeah, I'm ready to feel safe in my body and healthy and easeful and love. I'm ready to experience just loving kindness, right? As we all want to. And that is not what happened for me. I was calling on these, yes, the safety, yes, the ease. And what was coming up were these really adverse conditions, these scenarios, some that were kind of on the periphery of my consciousness and others that bubbled up, were called up from my unconscious, old patterns of thinking and behaviors. And what that practice showed me and continues to show me is that again, these experiences of ease, safety, joy are organic, natural states. But what happens is we have they get overlaid by life and circumstances. And so what they sometimes reveal is what the hindrances come up, the things that are actually blocking us from experiencing the joy, right? And so that's a positive thing because then we're very clear about what do I need to work with to get to the experience, what is in the way, right? And again, it's not in the way as this is an obstacle, but it's actually the Dharma gate itself that we need to pass through to get to the freedom. So yeah, just let these words be with you, and then we'll move into the guided meditation just for a few minutes, and then we'll just chat. So Dogen Zenji says, a joyful spirit is one of gratefulness and buoyancy. You should consider this carefully. If you had been born into some heavenly realm, you would most likely have only become attached to the pleasures of that realm, taking neither time nor opportunity to awaken the Bodhi spirit. Nor would you be likely to feel any particular necessity for practicing the Buddha Dharma. Much less would you be able to prepare meals for the three treasures, despite their being the highest and most worthy of all things. Neither being Sakro Devanam Indra nor a Chakravartin compares with the three treasures. In the Chanwan Chingwe, we find this passage. The Sangha is the most precious of all things. Those who live in this community are unfettered by the pettiness of social affairs. Such a community manifests a refined posture devoid of fabrication about the world. How fortunate we are to have been born as human beings, given the opportunity to prepare meals for the three treasures. Our attitude should truly be one of joy and gratefulness. We should also reflect on what our lives might have been had we been born in one of the realms of hell, as an insatiable spirit, as some lowly animal, or as a demon. How difficult our lives would be if we suffered the misfortunes of these four circumstances or any other of the 8 misfortunate conditions. We would be unable to practice the Dharma with the strength of the community, even though we had a mind to do so. Much less would we be able to prepare food with our own hands and offer it to the three treasures. Our bodies and minds would be bound by the limitations and afflictions of those worlds and would have to suffer their burdens. Therefore, rejoice in your birth into the world, where you are capable of using your body freely to offer food to the three treasures, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Considering the innumerable possibilities in a timeless universe, we have been given a marvelous opportunity. The merit of working as a tenzo will never decay. My sincerest desire is that you exhaust all the strength and effort of all your lives, past, present, and future, and every moment of every day into your practice through the work of the tenzo, so that you form a strong connection with the Buddha Dharma. To view all things with this attitude is called joyful mind. Yeah, so let's just sit a little bit. Um, and we'll just start with a few moments of Zazen. One thing you might do if this isn't a part of your practice, you might play with is really drop your energy and your breath down into your belly. This is called the hara in Japanese, sometimes called the sea of chi. And like the sea, it's boundless, vast, infinite, an inexhaustible wellspring. You can just notice, see if you can let go of any force or tension. We're actually going to start with inviting in a being. This can be a being, this can be an energy, this can be a quality, can be an ancestor, a bodhisattva, a deity, an animal, a friend that is able to offer you this boundless compassion. And so just see if you can just open your mind and your heart any amount more to what a teacher of mine, Lama Rod Owens, calls a benefactor, someone who is concerned only with your well-being, only with offering you unconditional love and support and guidance and protection. There's maybe one being, maybe several, and maybe none. You can let go of the jiriki here, let go of the self power. You're ready. See if you can start to bring forth the joy, draw it up from the depths. Might call to mind joyful experiences, things that bring you joy, movements, or music, or a person, a relationship. See if it can fill your whole being and even extend beyond. You might call forth a smile or a laugh or a grin. And if any difficulty arises, this is where the practice of the boundless benefactor can come in to guide us and be and support us. And again, transmuting that situation or even allying with it in some way, recognizing that this, whatever challenge comes up, is there to serve, right? It's there to show us an aspect of ourself or our life that needs to be worked with some. It isn't quite working. And can we befriend this? And can that become an aspect of our joy, of our gratitude, of, as Dogen Zenji says, our buoyancy? So whatever is up for you, let it go. We'll do a few minutes of zazen, a few moments of zazen. You might notice the practice of daishin, magnanimous mind, supporting us, this practice of non-discrimination, of allowing whatever is up for us to be with us. So when you're ready, you'll just come back and we'll close with a vow and just have a discussion. If anybody wants to share or has any comments or things to say or questions. And this was obviously a very quick and condensed practice, but I mean, any one of those phases you could spend an entire sitting practice on, or days on, weeks on, just that connecting to maybe a benefactor or an ancestor or a bodhisattva, or even just a quality or energy, whatever works for you. There's no rush here, there's no goal. Um, it's just practice, right? It's just practice. And yeah.
One of the images that kind of kept coming up to me as you were speaking was like a mother, and particularly because the passage that you read talks about Tenzo, so I kept thinking about like cooking and that part of being a parent, and like when you started talking about the joy that comes from the other side of that, like I think it's sort of a universal expression that yeah, when you cook for somebody and you see them enjoying that meal and you see them full and happy, it's just like that is kind of an endless giving joy. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it's like is such a human thing. It like goes across cultures. Like sharing food together. Yeah, the joy that it brings. Yeah. Yeah, you were bringing us into next week. We'll go into nurturing mind, which is that. But yeah, again, like it's all one. Where there's one, they're all there, you know. Yes, Chris.
So I am getting stuck on decisions that I've made in the past that have put me in a situation that I'm in that's hard to deal with. And also, I'm having big problems dealing with change. I'm not sure what kind of question that is, but can you say anything about that?
Hmm. Hmm. Sure. Yeah. 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 I would imagine you're not alone, for one. Has anybody else experienced that? Just difficulties with change and kind of that wake up moment of when you realize you kind of reflect. This is how I'm experiencing what you said, Chris, of like, damn, like I chose I made those choices and now I'm here. So there can be that like there can be that harshness there, that self-critic. You know, we can be really hard on ourselves in those moments. Um, and I think that's when this practice of loving kindness can be really important, you know, to not get stuck in that, but recognize that you know, right here and right now is our place of practice. And, you know, if we are not able to cultivate that from ourselves, sometimes it can be very hard to be loving towards ourselves. Can we bring in someone who can support us in that? And this could be like a physical person here with us. This could be, again be an unseen being or an ancestor. But the important thing is, can we access that and can we experience it? Like, can we really feel it, regardless of where it needs to come from, what the origin is? That part's not so important. But I mean, yeah, I think it's dukkha, right? It's the first noble truth of life is suffering, and can we actually allow that to penetrate us? And can we allow our hearts to break open more and more? I mean, I think this practice is just an ongoing practice of breaking our hearts open, right? I mean, if we think about opening up, um, there can be like cracking in that or breaking. Sometimes that is actually the opening. And can we tend to ourselves and let that happen, right? And ultimately, that's what deepens our connection with others. It deepens our own life. It brings us clarity, you know, so that we're not replicating or repeating the patterns. I'm reminded of the story of Avalokiteshvara, who made the vow to this is the being who hears and sees the cries of all the world and made that vow to liberate all beings, and then recognize that choice of like speaking for Avalokiteshvara here of like, damn, you know, I really made that vow. And recognizing the magnitude of that, and then they explode, right? This is how the story goes. Her head or body explodes. And in that explosion, that heartbreaking, what comes forth are multiple heads, multiple arms. We've got this image of the thousand armed Avalokiteshvara, right? And so that heartbreaking didn't destroy them, but actually made them more able to love, you know. So those are some thoughts, but anyone else have remarks about that? Yeah, I mean, I feel you. I feel you. And those moments are challenging. Yeah.
Could I offer a little thoughts?
Please.
Um, I'll weave in things that came up while all of you are speaking, but Dengetsu, when Genjo was reading the quote from Dogen Zenji about what if we had been born into a hell world. I think a lot about hell in a Buddhist sense, which is really different from the Catholic hell I grew up with. Because I think in my life experience, when I've had real adversity, I've wondered, is this actually a hell world? Was I actually born in a hell world? Um, Not torturous, but a hell world. And when you said that right now, Genjo, um, something came up so quickly for me that the gates of these hell worlds are the exact same gates as the Dharma gate, and they're in the same location, but you access the gates not by different places, but by different times. And so if anyone's experienced depression, I mean, the feeling is for me that you're at the gate of hell of the past. You just can't get away and move into the moment. And if anyone's experienced anxiety, it's like being at the gate of hell in the future. But they're the exact same gates. In fact, you can't have the gate of the present, of the Dharma gate, without those other gates existing right in the same spot. And I always think that that's a place for me to find such relief, even when I'm suffering, is to just get to that moment of the present. And I don't know how to explain it other than the past and the future kind of melt a little bit and something else opens. And then the pain is not so bad. I mean, pain's really not so bad, but it's no longer suffering, you know. So with that, I'll share a couple of last thoughts as gratitude. When Quinn was talking about cooking, one of the joys that has been coming up for me is gratitude for the things that I cook with, and how I realize how much bigger it is than only cooking for my spouse, which is great. But like everything in that room is supporting me at the moment. The sink, the trash, the garbage disposal, the food that I have. I can't express enough how lucky it is to open a fridge with food in it, right? And then the real gratitude I'd never thought of from this meditation, Genjo, my late cat was, I believe, my soulmate. And I never thought about what he would do as unconditional compassion, but that's really what it was. And I don't think that has to only come from humans. And so you kind of opened that up for me in a way that I hadn't had access to. And so I'm really grateful for that. Just unconditional compassion coming from a sentient being that isn't so cognitively connected with me, but is kind of very deeply was emotionally connected and still kind of works in my life, right? So thanks to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. One of my favorite parts of it's called the Keisa Kudoku, the merits of the wearing the Keisa. This is from Dogen Zenji, a fascicle of the Shobogenzo, is he's telling a story about this she's a prostitute, and she kind of jokingly puts on the Buddha robes as just kind of a costume to like entice people, you know. And the story is like, oh, you know, because she put that on, then she actually ended up entering the Buddha way. And so then she becomes a nun, and she's going back to the brothel where she worked, and she's like kind of encouraging the other her sisters to, you know, take up the Buddha robe, take up the Buddha path. And they're like, no, you know, we can't because we'll be tempted and then we'll break the precepts. And she's like, you know, like, okay, just break the precepts then. And they're like, no, because if we break the precepts, we'll go to hell. And she's like, okay, just go to hell then. Like, be in hell. What's the big deal? You know, it's like, and it's not to dismiss the pain of that, but like Daisho, I think, put really beautifully, like the pain is is one thing, and when we really are here and now with it, it's sometimes it's not, a lot of times it's not so bad in my experience. It's this overlaying of suffering we do because we don't want to be in hell. And that not wanting to be in hell is what makes it hell. Really. You know. So can we find the joy even in the hell realm when we're in the hell realm? You know.
Thinking about a lot of things, and just how powerful joy is and how it can sometimes lay dormant in us. And also, like, with our ancestors, I just think that they, even with how much like they've suffered or how much they've quote unquote failed or whatever, that they have so much faith in us. Like, they have so much faith, and faith is beyond the outcome of this life. To me, I feel like faith to me is like not even like, oh, I hope things will be this way that I want them to be. It's more like someday, like, there will be like peace and like everyone will feel joy, and like someday, like, and even today, like, I don't know, I was just thinking about like faith kind of, and just how it just goes beyond, and like, yeah. I don't know.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. You reminded me of, have y'all heard this quote, this idea? It's not an idea, really. It's I think, a real truth, but we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. Have y'all heard that? Really like that. But this idea that, yeah, and ancestor work can be tricky. Some of us didn't receive the love and care we needed from a parent or caregiver, ancestor. And what you were saying, I think, Della, of like, we have many, many ancestors, spiritual ancestors, blood ancestors that go back generations and generations. And so I guarantee you there is people in your lineage who are rooting for you and are just loving you, you know. So can we open to that? Oh, there's a yes, Lisa.
It was curious just now when you said that about, our ancestors rooting, that I just had this incredible emotional reaction of tearing with the idea that the times that I feel so alone, and let that cloud me. And in this moment, bringing my ancestors, I realize I'm never alone. I'm never alone. That I do feel them and have them surrounding me. And so that's brought me a new level of joy. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah. Yeah, there's a Linda put into the chat. Something that sometimes helps me is sitting on the thinking of, did the choices I make at the time fall in line with what I thought was the best choice or decision I could make at that time based on the information I had in front of me? Yeah, right. We can be really critical and judgmental of our past selves based on our now selves, right?
Something that really stuck with me was what you mentioned, being at a retreat with a Theravada monk and just having to fill up your own cup and kind of let it run over, and how that kind of fills up the cups of those around you, maybe. And Like I feel like when I was younger, I was actually a lot better at like filling up my own cup, and it was almost like a natural thing I knew how to do. And I kind of lost it over the years. And there's there's a part of me that's just like why can't I figure it out again? Like it used to be so easy. And I think part of today's like being able to like imagine a benefactor, I think is kind of helpful there. Because I think like yeah, just kind of freeing yourself from like your experiences and the world around you, I think can open up new doors. It's like I'm not necessarily limited by my experiences and what's directly around me. It's like I can imagine things that could help. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, bringing us again. You two are bringing us into the nurturing mind. You know, next week we'll do some like probably some inner child stuff. So get ready. But it's true. I feel you. I feel the same way of like, yeah, there was a point where it was natural. Like I just knew what I needed to play and I knew what I liked. And then down the line, I think for whatever reason, you know, socialization, conditioning, we kind of lose track of like that sense of like inner knowing, but it's still there, right? It's still there. We just have to conjure it up and kind of access it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to comment on the same thing that you brought that up earlier, amongst many other thoughts that everyone has brought forward. It's really, really wonderful in a sense of sangha, in its essence, in that way. And Lisa, you define the very best of the sangha. I think for me, that's the very best what you talked about. But to say a little more about that embodiment of the full embodiment of being versus that nuance of doing, and that you brought forth, Genjo. And the cup spills over by being, not by doing, doesn't it? And I think at the heart of that is that wholeheartedness, just practice. It's all just practice. Just practice. But thank you all for these comments. And thank you, Genjo, for bringing the embodied wisdom yet again.
Okay, we'll wrap up there. I think that's time. Come on back next week, and bring something you love. Like this can be a little token, this can be whatever, just something that for whatever reason you love it and you like it and it makes you happy. Okay.
It's cool.
Physically, yes. If you're on Zoom, have it close to you. This is unfolding, y'all. I really don't have a plan. It's just I'm listening and I'm feeling, and that's what's gonna happen next week. Yeah. What is this? May the merit of this practice benefit all beings and bring peace.
Just a couple of announcements. I really want to encourage people to check out the full moon on the 3rd, which I think is Tuesday. Because we're gonna have our typical full moon ceremony here at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, which is on Zoom as well. But just go and look at the moon wherever you are, because it's going to be a lunar eclipse, a full moon, and a blood moon, which is like a very rare event. So it's just gonna look really crazy on Tuesday night. So do that. That's the biggest announcement. The other thing is registration for the Roxu retreat has closed, but there are other sessions that you can and should sign up for, including in April and in May. So please reach out to me at info@greattreetemple.org if you're interested in any of the upcoming sessions. That's it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yes.
Thanks, guys.
And the full moon gathering Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
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 Tuesday. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.